to my channel. Wendy Renee here. I clapped again. It's like I don't know what that is. It's like, maybe it's like a clap thing for acting like, you guys, cut, clap. And I have the Hollywood cup to prove it. Cut. Welcome back to my channel. Wendy Renee here. So excited to have you. We are here with Ken 3.0. For those of you who aren't familiar with Ken Mayo, Ken actually came out and disassociated himself on my channel. You can go back and watch Ken 1.0, 2.0, he updated 3.0. We like to keep up with Ken because he is like a father to me and he's one of our strongest supporters. He is a behind the scenes resource for PIMOs and especially those who've been through the gauntlet of being an elder in the JW organization and now they're waking up. Before we begin, thank you so much for liking, subscribing, and sharing our videos. Don't forget to hit that little bell at the top because that'll let you know that Wendy just dropped a new video. Don't forget to join us on our TikTok community. We have interesting conversations about narcissism and about religion and all things included. Also, I'm on Instagram where I kind of blog about everything and I open up my soul because that's what I do. I open my life. Ken Mayo is back on our show. We are so excited to have you here, Ken. This is Ken 3.0, I think. Just another update, and tell us what's been going on in the EXJW not so PIMO anymore world, sir.
Well, first of all, I'll just start off with the annual meeting that's now online.
Ooh.
I was watching tape one with Mark Sanderson, and he's talking about 1914 and how great it is to have the knowledge about 1914, what happened back then when God's kingdom began ruling. And I just keep sitting there. It's been 107 years ago. If God's kingdom is ruling right now, why do we have so many problems on the earth?
Why? Why?
It's not really ruling right now, because Daniel 2:44 says God's kingdom is going to crush and put it into all these kingdoms. It hasn't happened. And then in video 2, David Splain is going how the anointed are on the highway to holiness when they receive their heavenly calling. In other words, when they die, they're on a highway going to heaven. Sounds like a TV program, doesn't it? It made me think of the AC/DC song, Highway to Hell. It's just going in the opposite direction.
Wait a minute, I missed it. Did he really say the highway to holiness? Did he really say that?
Yeah, he said that. Yeah. So I had to look it up because that is an expression from Isaiah 35:8. But the comment that's from the Man's Salvation book, which is a recent book, says that applies to those that are studying the Bible with Jehovah's Witness are now on a highway to holiness, is a spiritual paradise.
Good for them.
But he just changed it. So they haven't changed the definition online.
Oh.
And he even says, so he meant that when Russell passed away in 1916, he was able to see how the anointed were appointed in 1919 from heaven in his nice seat that he has up in heaven. And I don't know if it's just becoming delusional or what.
Yes,
I
clearly.
think about it. Governing body has to come up with new life to keep people interested and on the edge. Got to keep them sucked in. So
yeah, someone told me yesterday they reframed paradise or something like that. Like now you're not going to be immediately in paradise or something like that. Like it's just going to be, I mean, we knew it was kind of a gradual process, but I think they're really selling that point now that it's not necessarily paradise. It's like kind of sugar-free or paradise light, I suppose, for the time being.
Well, like I said, they always have to have new things. And
oh yeah, and there's a new Caleb and Sophia. Did you see the new Caleb and Sophia?
But it's
nothing like scaring a little girl. Nothing like scaring a child about school and being different. It's weird enough that she's a young child who happens to be a JW, but then, you know, they don't even teach her to stand up for herself to bullies. Just pray about it. I got a question for you, Ken. If that little girl prayed about it and this girl continues to bully her, does that mean God didn't answer her prayer? Does that mean God's answering the prayers of the other kids that this girl happens to not bully? When does it end, Ken? When?
It doesn't end. It doesn't end. They got to always keep you in fear of doing wrong. And they got to keep you under that thumb, per se. You just do what we tell you, you'll be safe. But, you know, since you said about pray about it, as an elder, I would have women in their 30s and 40s would come to me and say, Brother Mayo, I got to tell you something. What's the matter? Well, when I was 12 years old, I was molested by my stepdad. And I thought I could get over it, but I'm having these bad memories again. And it's just getting me down. What should I do? Well, sis, let's read a scripture here. Throw your burdens on Jehovah and he will sustain you. And so you need to be going to all the meetings. You need to study for these meetings. You need to comment as much as you can. You need to be out in service as much as you can. Jehovah's going to heal you. So let's say, when did you break your leg? You say, I broke my leg. What should I do? Well, you need to read your Bible more. You need to go to all the meetings and study harder, be out in service all the time, read your daily text, and you'll be healed. My point is that people that have been hurt, even sexually molested, they need help. They need professional help. And so, like a psychiatrist or a therapist, I've seen these therapists in action, even with my wife. She wasn't sexually abused, but she had some abuse, but she had bad dreams. It just wouldn't go away. But this psychologist and therapist was able to replace the bad dreams with good dreams. And it's amazing to see how trained people can do that. And so I think about things now. We touched on child abuse the last two videos, but now 4 more have come up that I'm aware of.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Any updates since you were last on the show? Because you're quite known in the PMO world. I've gotten a lot of feedback as to how helpful you have been, by the way.
Well, I'm going to tell you a story, a true story. I'm going to call her Sister Davis, okay? We've been friends ever since we moved here. She was like, I'm going to say 7 years old when we moved here back in 1990. And back in 2018, this man came into the Kingdom Hall, and my wife and I are talking to her, and she goes, that man right there, that's my uncle who raped me back in the early 90s. And I'm like, oh, and that was the word she used. And I said, well, what came out of it? Well, they didn't believe me. 12-year-old girl, they didn't believe her. And so now, okay, so my thought is, if I was accused of raping some girl and I wanted to move, now he was down in Mobile, Alabama, but you have over 20, 30,000 congregations here in the States. Would you go to that same congregation that your niece is at? But anyway, this guy comes to our Kingdom Hall. When you go out in service, the brothers put you together. But I got to work with this guy, and he was a Fruit Loop. I'll tell you right now. And he's in his middle 60s, but you and I could be having this conversation. He's reading his Bible. Well, if he doesn't like what we're talking about, he's going to interrupt us and say, look what I'm reading here. Isaiah 35:8, the highway of holiness, running. That's just for example. But he does it all throughout while you're in the group. I mean, me and another brother would just look at each other and roll our eyes. So he wants to prove his righteousness in front of others. Well, in 2019, my wife and I are sitting at the Kingdom Hall at the service meeting. Announcement is made about this brother has been appointed as a ministerial servant. And my wife and I, we looked at each other. My wife's complexion changed right in front of me to red, and she's on fire. And I'm saying, honey, please keep control of your emotions. Please keep control. And she goes, I'm going to go talk to our group overseer. And so she went and talked to our group overseer. And I went with her. My wife tells him that how could you appoint this man? Because years ago, he raped Sister Davis as a child. And he goes, well, there was only one witness. It was her statement against his. There's no other witnesses. But we looked at his whole life. He's been pioneering for the last 10 years. You see how he comments all the time at the meetings. He's here for all the meetings. And we feel that he qualifies to be a ministerial servant. So don't you bring it up again.
Oh, my God.
And so that sealed the deal for my wife. She was done with
the she was still kind of PME at the time, right?
Correct.
She was
correct.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been talking, and I've been telling her things that I'm learning. But that really just kind of sealed the deal. And it is good that I could remind her stories like that. But she's the one that reminded me about that. I almost completely forgot about it. But that sister that night was our last meeting also. So there's another example that the victim is completely ignored. And when I thought about this too, when a woman is violated and she goes to the police, you know what they always do? They bring in another woman or two to sit down and talk to her.
Sure. Yeah.
And why is that? It's because a woman can understand how another woman feels. But yet, when you go to the congregation elders, you're dealing with 3 old guys, 3 men. Right? And so who knows what goes on? And they're not trained for that. They are not trained and equipped. And that's why you see all these lawsuits coming out now. It's just they're being bombarded, and it's being paid for with dedicated funds from the
in a couple of weeks, there's a talk. I have a women's panel coming on our channel. And it's obvious to me that they don't want women to support the victims because for some bizarre made up reason, that's considered women taking roles of leadership, just to sit there and be comforting to a victim having gone through what they've gone through. If a woman can't carry a microphone in a congregation, she's obviously not going to be allowed to sit in a committee meeting and support a victim who has a story to tell. Wait, back up a minute. So the victim is sitting in the audience. This guy is appointed as a ministerial servant, and the elder body was just like, yeah, well, we think it's been enough time. That's it.
That's it. And he even used the words, it's been put to rest, so don't bring it up again.
No,
And your mom wife's a strong woman. You don't tell her that.
no, I like your
But you
wife.
know, yeah, but the elders do have this air of superiority about them, and they feel like that their word is gospel, and you better follow it. That's all it is. I've been appointed by
Mhm.
Jesus to be in this role.
When you were an
And
elder, did you actually truly believe that you were appointed by Holy Spirit?
yes,
And if you did believe that, did you think you had that you had this certain amount of were you a power hungry kind of guy? Because I
I
know
was
not
not.
all elders are bad guys, you
No,
know.
no, no. I was not power hungry, and I would say I was humble and proud of it. No, just kidding. But no, but I was approachable, and I
Mhm.
never. I felt blessed to be in that position, if that
Did
makes
you really
sense.
think your information was coming straight from God? Like these guys right here who were like, whoa, well, it's over and done with, and we're the foremost authority on crimes in the organization.
I mean, when certain things go your way, yes. And I'll give you an
Mm.
example. I was on a reinstatement meeting, but this young man did, but he moved to another congregation. So because it was only about an hour's drive, we thought that we'd go rehear the case with that other body, because the other body recommended he be reinstated. We were asking him a couple questions, and it boiled down to that here he was in his middle 20s, but he was still having dealings with his family. They were going out
Mhm.
to eat. They were being seen doing things. They even went on a
Mhm.
cruise together with a whole bunch of family members while he was disfellowship.
Mhm.
So, and the comment was made by us. It says that maybe your family doesn't respect this fellowship arrangement, but you need to, and you're not doing it. So therefore, we think you need more time to get your act together. And so then he blew up. The kid just blew up at us. He called us wicked, evil, and so and then
I
the,
mean,
uh, the coordinator of the other body had to grab him and walk him outside and said, "You're not handling this right." Well, one of the other elders, he says, "Well, you guys got the call right. We had it
mhm.
wrong." So that justified us. It's just another example. Since we knew we were right.
I really hate lumping a bunch of people into one stereotype or one category, but it sounds like you there's strength in numbers. That's true of any group, but
Sure.
you get a bunch of elders together who are all congratulating each other. Obviously, you're going to think that you're right in what you're doing, like, oh yeah, we just fellowship with this guy and it was really good and we did a good job doing that. Well, then I think that
Yeah.
that's what's going in my mind in the elders meeting. You're all sitting around the little conference table thinking, well, this person doesn't really have an elder father, so we're just going to have to, give it to them. That's what it's
Yeah.
like. Am I a little cynical? I might be cynical here, Ken.
But but you're getting the point across. You
Yeah.
have to remember that the elders, again, like I said, my first video, twice a year, you got the CEO coming around and
Yeah.
building them up. And he
Hmm.
works with them out field service and just say, hey, you guys are doing a great job. Just remember Jesus is using you. So, and you hear that all the time. You're like, Jesus is using me because I made the right decision. Look what I've been able to accomplish here. And
Here's your
that's,
gold sticker. Jesus is using you. Here's your gold sticker. Oh my
yeah,
God. Okay, so I want to know how things are happening, how things are working for you since being on again. I know you've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. That there are, for our viewers, I just want to say that there are, since Ken had been on again, there are a lot of PIMOs, elders, ministerial servants, rank and file, who have reached out to Ken. And this is why we're doing what we're doing on this channel. Because a lot of you, obviously, with aliases and fake names, we are living under that emotional control. So what we do is we have people on our channel who can provide some kind of a service or a resource for you to offer comfort. So Ken, what is that looking like for you?
you're giving me the goosebumps now. And that's
Oh,
because I've met some fabulous people. There's the
uh-huh.
five, I've met five elders already that
Mm.
had served at one time, and all of them are recent. But I formed friendships with them. We talk on a regular basis. In fact, I had a former ministerial servant contact me, want to know if I wanted 2 NFL tickets to the Tampa Bay Miami Dolphin game, and I said, yeah. I flew down to Tampa, and a former elder picked me up at the airport. His wife and my wife, and we just had a grand old time. And
Mhm.
so I've met some fabulous men. I'll say that they're just like me, and it's
Mhm.
great talking to them. We share the ideas, but those other men though, they're only one also disassociated, him and his wife both, but the other four are still PIMOs. And I because they'll ask me, "Did you see the broadcast?" I said, "Man, I can't stomach that stuff anymore. I hate to say that,
Yeah,
but I just can't. It's just
I can't.
like you watching the cartoon now. It makes you sick, and it
Mhm.
just getting so dumbed down. Doesn't I will tell you that I still pray every day. I still do. And I'll even look things up like I just did earlier when I heard David explain talking.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to tell you something that happened to me. My banker invited me to one of her church meetings at a community church. So I went. And it just happened that the pastor was talking about Jesus' first miracle, turning water into wine. And it was a good discussion. But then at the very end, he goes, oh, by the way, it wasn't like real wine that we have today because it didn't have time to ferment. So after the meeting, I went up to the girl that invited me. I said, hey, did that part about the wine not being fermented, do you believe that that's true, what the pastor said? She goes, no, he's got it wrong. He's got it wrong. She goes, because the director of the feast said how they always bring out the good wine at first, and then they bring out the inferior wine last. And yet the director was commenting on this wine that was just brought out that Jesus provided was the best wine for the whole night. So she goes, that was the true miracle. But the point is that she can disagree with her pastor, and she's still a full-fledged member, and everything's good. But let you hear an elder talk, or even the governing body, and you disagree with it, you're out of here. We don't need you here. That's the difference.
Or at the very least, you'll have a target on your back for sure. You know, if you remotely disagree, and you certainly can't talk about that with other publishers in the congregation at all.
You can talk to the Catholics. Do you agree with what the Pope always says? No, right? Like in a matter of birth control and other areas. So, but that's freedom to be able to worship the way you're allowed to use that God-given talent, that brain of yours. If you can read the Bible and you think it says this, and someone else says, no, it's not. And, you know, in case in point, 1 Timothy 2:5 again, about the mediator. It says there's only one mediator between man and God, it's Jesus. But the Watchtower Society said, no, he's just the mediator for the anointed. You guys get everlasting life, you can hang out with the anointed, as we talked about in that first video. That's freedom to be able to decide for yourself. You know, why else would you tell someone to read the Bible and then tell them that they got it wrong? I mean,
that's the motive there, is control, and to control the minds. It seems like the governing body is really doubling down on anybody who is remotely in disagreement with them at all. In fact, I have a contact who is at their assembly today, and yet there was another talk on apostates and how everyone who speaks badly about the organization are all liars. My question is, okay, if that's true, if you really think I'm lying and the thousands of people who are talking about this, where are your facts? Prove me wrong and I'll reconvert. That's what I've been saying since I started this whole gig. Really?
Those have been my words in the last 2 videos. That's why I gave up my phone
you did say that, actually. Yes, you did. Right.
And I have nobody challenge me.
Oh, no.
But I did some of them call one or more clarification. There was a guy that's in New York City, and he's studying. And well, he was.
Oh no.
And I told him, I said, listen, I don't want to ruin your spirituality. I'm just telling you that the Watchtower is not the only one that's trying to help people. I said all religions in some form or way have programs to help people. And you know, I'll tell you, and that's a good thing. You go what's good for you, and to decide for yourself. That's why you got a brain. You read the Bible. I said, but you know, but the Watchtower lies. The organization lies. For example, about this fellowshipping. You know, they keep saying no, normal family ties continue when a person is disfellowshipped. That is not true. Wendy, if I'm disfellowshipped, is my mom and dad, who are full-blown witnesses, are they going to invite me over for a meal? I got my brothers, my cousins, my good family, you know. Can I have a big meal at my house and say, come on over, all you strong spiritual Jehovah's Witnesses? No, it didn't happen. There's no, what is.
And you would think they would get more, they would want to bring more flies with honey. Is it flies with honey? You would think you'd get more flies with honey than vinegar.
Flies with just about anything.
Yeah, that's true. You would think that they would want
make it more attractive.
Right, because the Mormons do that. Like, you'll be excommunicated, but the shunning process isn't as intense with the Mormons as it is with JWs. Right. When I was disfellowshipped, I remember, because I still lived at home at the time, and I remember my mom would get the KM for me because, you know, being disfellowshipped, I couldn't dare touch such holy paper. But she would save a seat for me. And my mom got counseled for saving a seat for me in the Kingdom Hall that was packed because there was a merge at the time. So I guess all this to say, Ken, that for people who are disfellowshipped, it means your spirituality to save a human being a seat during a meeting in which you're going to be shunned, because that's what Jesus would do. That's exactly what he would do, Ken. Right?
Look at my case. in my case, I'm disassociated. Okay. I just didn't want to be a part of it anymore. That's all. I didn't commit any great sin. And
Right.
yet I'm treated as if I was horrible. That's just wrong, plain old wrong. Because,
Mhm.
like Walmart is like the meeting place for everybody, especially in a small town. And so I see active witnesses all the time, but they just ignore me. And
But
people have had to
do you play
see.
by the Watchtower's rules? Do you go say, hey, Bill, hey, how you doing? Because I'm that kind of person. I don't play by Watchtower's rules. If I see someone that I knew or that I
Yeah.
know, I'm going to say hi to you. I'm not going to ignore you. Are you the same way? I mean, to them, it would be, well, she's really defiant. No, I'm just polite. You're just brainwashed.
Yeah, I'm just being cordial. And yeah, I don't care. I'm going to say hi because it's back on them. I know. I saw a girl yesterday. I said, hey, you're supposed to be at work today. She goes, I got the day off. I said, well, you enjoy your day. She said, all right, bye.
Aw. Maybe they're afraid to catch it, Ken. Maybe they're afraid to catch it
Yeah.
from us. It's like a
But
contagious thing.
ordinarily, back before I dissociated, we'd have this conversation. How are you doing? How are the kids doing? How's your husband?
Mhm.
Just
Mhm.
get caught up on things. But
Mhm.
it's just a few words now. So
I'm finding that I had a conversation with someone this week about how once once you wake up from it, there's so many layers. Once you wake up from it, it's not a matter of disproving the doctrine at some point. Then it's the emotional control. Then it's the shunning, I think, is one of the most disgusting aspects of all of this. But here's the thing, we can do all this activism, right? We can make so many videos. We can talk till we lose consciousness about everything that we suffered while we're in there. But my thing is, what are we doing about it now? My focus is solely on giving the PMOs courage, especially women and young girls and young
yeah,
teenagers.
and I do that.
Yeah, right. I think this is like this is getting to be a really big issue here because with the advancement of technology and the growing number of people who are on social media, they're not able to control as many people nearly as they have been over the last couple of decades. And I noticed that the younger generation, Ken, we were like, I grew up in 1914. I can't tell you how many people in their late teens, early 20s don't even really understand what
I thought about
1914
that too.
is.
It's just like when I was studying back in 1980. I remember when they be talking about the good old days, before 1930. I'm like,
Yeah.
why would I want to live back there? So I
Right.
wasn't concerned about it. And now you're right. I think about these maybe even 40 and younger. When they hear, because it's been 107 years since 1914. Do you really want to talk about it? But a thinking person will go, what has happened since then to show that the kingdom is ruling?
Mhm. Well, millions now living are indeed dead. So,
Yeah,
but
oh, he
then,
mentions that book, Harper God, too. David Splay mentioned that book when he's talking about the highway to holiness. He talks about the Harper God. Do you really want them to go open that book again and talk and see that phrase, millions now living will never die? Do you want them to open it up and the big old picture of a pyramid comes out where Charles Russell had it all planned, how the 1914 was because of his measuring the pyramids of Giza?
and you got to ask yourself, though, how do they not know exactly what they're doing? That's what I did an interview yesterday with someone who actually came out on the channel also. It was really exciting and it was very cathartic for him. This guy was on the fast track to Gilead. And it was interesting because he said, how do they not know what they're doing at some point? So you think, okay, they had Crisis of Conscience, they had Brother Franz, they had Raw Ferruli just last year. They had all of these scholars, these brilliant minds saying, excuse me, you're wrong. You're wrong about a few things. And they're like, no, we're right. How can a man of God have zero humility?
I'll tell you how, because if it's not in the Bible, it's in one of their publications that they wrote.
That's a really good answer.
Well, because when we counsel people, they would say use the Bible or a Watchtower article. So if they can't find it in the Bible, they're going to use a Watchtower article, which is just a commentary on some man's belief.
Right. Well, Watchtower has replaced the Bible, just like the governing body has replaced Jesus. So
basically, yeah, because you can see the governing body, you can't see Jesus.
Right. I was just talking to someone else about this yesterday. I remember growing up and I used to, for example, I used to love behind the scenes of movies and music videos and television shows. So I remember I would watch behind the scenes and you'd see this huge team of people with like collaboration and papers flying, and they were all just kind of talking to each other. That's how I envisioned getting all of our literature, right? I envisioned this huge team, and I know there was a writing department, but it never occurred to me that there was just kind of like 8 older dudes who were like, yeah, that's what we think we want to control 8 million people with. That is what we think is the right information. And imagine, Ken, imagine these are the men who are going to be killing millions of people who aren't Jehovah's Witnesses up in heaven with Jesus. Imagine that. What's new in your work, and what are some things that you're working on, some ideas that you have, and your activism that you are currently involved in?
Mainly the activism is just having a listening ear, just listening to people. One elder was telling me how he was struggling with his wife, trying to get her to see it. I said, write up an outline. I said, you were trained as an elder how to overcome objections and how to convince people through logic and reasoning. I said, you just got to spend some time at the table and write it out like you would have talked, and then try it. My activism has just been encouraging these PIMOs. I mean, I don't want to break up their marriage, but use your skills, dude. Watch Terror Trained us good.
You know what? It's funny. Somebody just said that to me. Well, Wendy, the Watchtower organization made you a really good apostate. And I'm like, you know what? Hey, how'd that work out for you? It's true.
It's funny. I always say, I've said this before, that perhaps something's going to happen to your wife where an elder or even an organization may get them mad. There's this guy close to me, and him and I talk a lot, almost every night. He's become a party animal, but that's another story. But anyways, his wife has been opposed to everything he's done, but she's a big anti-vaxxer. So all of a sudden, she is now like, you mean we can't go back to the meetings unless we're vaccinated? And remember, that's the latest direction. They're starting to open up Kingdom Halls.
They're pushing that, and they pushed it all on Bethelites too. Like,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
But now his wife has come down a couple notches, and he says, see, if they're going to push it that way, what else are they going to do next? They're going to want you to drink this flavored drink that they got that's going to make you super healthy and get you into the new world.
How Jonestown is this? I mean, regardless of what our audience thinks about vaccines, that is not what this post is about, you guys. But can we just talk for a second about how they twisted scriptures, which sounds like a band name, by the way, Twisted Scriptures, when they twist scriptures to push the vaccine, and then they're doing this soft opening or something like that with like 500 rules. First of all, Hebrews 10:24 and 25 was drilled into our heads about do not forsake the gathering. So how in the world, now we're going to get segregation, right? Now we're going to get people who can't, won't. What do they think is going to happen? They're going to call it persecution porn because Satan is attacking the Jehovah's Witnesses who are now divided. What do they think they're going to accomplish with this?
Well, you remember what they said? We're going to give you instructions that may sound uncanny and that you shouldn't do it.
They set
if you
people
love
up
Jehovah,
for the weirdness.
Yes, but those are their own words. You're going to get these uncanny instructions that it's going to be hard for you to swallow, but trust us, we love you. How many times hear him saying we love you very much?
No, the government. Listen, anybody, do you remember that Seinfeld episode where it was Jimmy likes what Jimmy sees? Like Jimmy talks about himself in third person, and Elaine had no idea he was talking about himself.
Jimmy is pretty sweet on you. Jimmy's been watching you. You're just Jimmy's type. Jimmy's new in town.
Oh yeah, Jimmy.
Jimmy can dunk. Jimmy's new in town. Jimmy will see you later.
That's exactly what this is. I had no idea the governing body throughout my life was talking about themselves in the literature.
That's the guy who gave me Jimmy's number.
The governing body is going to heaven. The governing body is the anointed. Oh.
That's Jimmy.
So you're talking about, that's like me saying, you know what, Ken? Wendy has such a great channel. You should go watch it.
The overlapping generations. You can imagine them sitting at the table there and they're going, God, guys, this generation has run out. We've changed it so many times. We can't change it again. What can we think about? Well, you know, you got your parents, you got yourself, your generations kind of overlap. You kind of know things about both sides. Bingo, overlapping generations. All right, now how are we going to promote this? I don't know. You, Samuel, you'll come up with it and we'll go with it.
It sounds good. You're the well-spoken one of the group. You're the charismatic one of the group. You'll sell it.
But I'll just say this. They were against vaccinations back in the 20s, and then they came to accept it. But again, how many doctors do you know that are witnesses? Or even more, how many are experts on viruses? And so
none.
They're not. It's called ignorance. When you're not familiar with something, you go into an ignorant mode and you don't accept it. and you go against it at first because you don't understand it. The directives that come from the governing body starts at the top, then it goes to the circuit overseers, and you got to toe the line. If you will, especially like circuit overseers, you don't toe, you're out of here. And so these elders, these basically high school men, they're having their ego stroke because they got a measure of power in the congregation and they're over people, and they're told the same thing. Here's directions, you follow it, and you discuss it.
Yeah, but the PIMOs can use it to their advantage, and here's how. I've seen people talk about how if you are a PIMO and you can use this vaccine rule to your advantage, just simply say you're not vaccinated and you don't have to go. It's going to backfire on them somehow. It always backfires on them somehow, and it's going to be amazing.
I have another friend of mine close by that was a former elder, but him and his wife are basically out. They're POMOs, right? Physically and mentally out. Every so often they will go join a meeting just to appease their daughter who's got children, grandchildren. But she's saying you need to do more. And she says, you're not seeing the kids. And as of last week, she actually went and visited a neighbor's house and didn't go to her own parents' house because they're not attending all the meetings. But see, that's the kind of grip. And it's so easy for these directors to be put out and followed from the top. It may not, in today's environment, it's a lot different because like we had the internet, you can check things on your own. And boy, that's a scary thing when a person's informed. And yet you're telling
I had someone try and take me down, Ken. I had someone coming at me trying to take me down. I found out about it. This person called someone that I care about deeply and said, if you don't report her, I'm going to, right? This person doesn't even live in the same state as I do. Complete chaos. I didn't know about it for months. I reached out to the person and I said, here's the information you need. And I said, I don't understand why this is so important to you. And they said, I don't understand. Yeah, but he listened to his mentality. I don't understand why it's so important to you. He said, it's just procedural. Like when you're paying the tab at a bar or when you're resigning from a job that you no longer work at. First of all, if I'm paying the tab at a bar, I'm pretty sure the bartender isn't going to tell the rest of the patrons to ignore me for the rest of my life. And also, if I'm resigning from any kind of a job, pretty sure I'm not going to be shunned and kicked out. It's amazing how they think that that is okay to look at it like that, how they oversimplify. Just walk away. That we're not going to talk to you anymore. And here's my thing. To other people who are trying to take me down, go ahead. It's obviously they care more about what I'm doing than they care about someone else. So, hey, that's great. I'm baffled that they think it's just no big deal. No big deal. Just resign. It's not just resigning. People are losing livelihoods just because they simply don't believe anymore. I get really passionate. I'm surprised I'm not slamming my desk.
But just like I tell these brothers that they call me and ask how I did it. And I just said, just be patient, but work up an outline, get some bullet points you're going to get across, but you better explain it. It could be a challenge. I get it.
But with regard to marriage, if I could give advice to a man waking up before the woman, I'm just speaking as a woman. It's not about the doctrine necessarily. Women are programmed to think that if he doesn't love God, if he's not taking a lead in the organization, he doesn't love me. So women are programmed to think it's about them. If he doesn't love this religion anymore, he must not love me either. What have I done wrong as a wife? How have I not supported him where he no longer has faith? So my advice to the PIMO men in the audience is double down on your love for her. Don't really go at her with doctrine. Just strip yourself of all, it takes a lot of inner work. Strip yourself of any misogyny. Empower her. Tell her her brain is beautiful. Ask her opinions on things without the JW doctrine in your mind. Ask her, so if you didn't become a witness, what would life look like for us?
Hold it. Elder Wendy, you got it right on. So
I'm telling you, you have to just love her as a human being, empower her, make her feel smart. Don't just sit there and I'm stepping down as an elder, I'm stepping down as a ministerial servant. She will feel abandoned. And then guess what? She's going to go to other people. She feels lost.
Let me tell you a story. I worked at a grocery store in Florida. And one time this floral shop next door wanted to use a ladder. I let them use the ladder. Well, they gave me a dozen roses for letting me use a ladder. Like, oh, wow. So I take it home to my wife and she goes, oh my God. She got all excited and man, she was just like great to me. And never had the heart to tell her that these were just given to me. I didn't pay for them, but I learned a lesson.
Don't worry, it's only on YouTube.
Yeah, but I learned a lesson is surprise her. So many times I'll be buying flowers and someone will go, what's the occasion, or did you do something wrong? I said, no, it's called preventative maintenance. So
Yes.
that's a good point. Still love
Mhm.
your mate, be nice to them, and maybe go the extra mile to show them that you're, and that is so true.
Yeah.
And I was doing that to let her know it's not her,
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
me.
So the women and moms who are waking up before the ultra PME
Yeah.
husbands, that's terrifying. I know that from experience too. I know for me, what worked was I fell in love with the man, not the potential, not what he was doing for the congregation. I started thinking, hey, you know what? I really love this hobby that you have. I want to take interest in that. And I just started to kind of work through his mind to get to his heart. And I know that this advice may not work for everybody, Ken. It's marriage. Marriage is messy. And when it comes to adding another layer of indoctrination on there, and a man may feel just as abandoned as a wife does, because if you don't have this religion as a common denominator, number one, I was programmed to think you must have demons in your house. Maybe you went to a thrift shop and picked something up, or you must be doing something behind the scenes. That's not the case in most wake up cases of spouses. Can the marriage survive? Maybe. But
Well,
in
I'm
your
living
case,
proof
your
that,
wife had to experience it herself, right?
yeah, just love your wife. I think that's
Yeah.
what the scripture says. Love her as your own body.
Oh.
And see that should never change. And that's what they need to do. And it's hard because you're getting this information, and like once you find one little piece, it's like you're on this venture. You want to
Yeah.
find out what else is going on, and then the whole wall, you just pulled all the bricks out from the wall and it comes tumbling down.
Mhm.
And then it kind of turns to anger because how can I be so stupid to waste all
Mhm.
my time, my vital energies, when I could be like my friend Bob over here who retired at 54 because he got a job, worked there 30 years, and I
Yeah.
pioneered all those years and had
Yeah.
really nothing. And I would say the one thing plus I've always been a hard worker, and I've made
Mhm.
some good decisions in that area, so I'm surviving.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I know this elder just called me from North Carolina. He's living in a trailer. He was an
Mhm.
ex-Bethelite, and him and his wife were serving at Bethel for like 20 years, but she gets pregnant. And so now they're saying, well, we have no place for kids here. So he gets reassigned to the Carolinas, but he had nothing basically.
Reassigned.
Yeah, it's a fancy way of saying you're let go. But it's been a struggle for him. He started waking up in 014. Well, the child came out with Down syndrome, and
Mhm.
so it was a
Oh,
struggle
their
for them.
child?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so now it was just hard. And but he had time on his hands to do some investigating. And then he started learning all this stuff. And he said, Ken, by the time I started doing this journey a couple years ago, I'm already poor. And now I'm almost destitute. And I hated to hear that. But he's trying to live off of a small social security pittance, but it's nothing.
So there were a lot
No.
of elders who commented on a recent thread in the Reddit group of men and women who are in their late 60s, who are, some of them are just waking up, some of them are pioneers and elders for 20, 30 years, and now it could be described as an existential crisis, Ken, because you realize everything you put your passion into, everything you put your life and heart and soul into is not real, and it's just a lot, and now you have to live in the real world. And my question for you is, if you could speak to the people in the audience or in your generation who are just kind of learning how to reinvent their life, but time has passed, what would you say to them to give them a little encouragement?
Well, it can be done.
Mm,
In my case, I've got good health. So
mhm,
if you're this person, you're in your 60s like I am,
mhm,
take care of yourself. And there is work you can find that's tailor made for you. You
mhm,
might have to be humble and maybe take a job you thought you would never do. When I moved here back in 1990, because I was in the grocery business, I had a job as a salesman for a specialty food company, and
mhm,
it was a good job. But
mhm.
they wanted me to travel, so I turned it down. But I found myself stuck in Alabama without a job in 1990, and like I had no savings really. But at the time, as a city guy from Miami, I'm in
Mhm.
rural Alabama with no job. And so this came up to me. He was in the cleaning business. I'm sure you're shocked about that. But he was cleaning floors. Now, when I worked for the grocery store at Winn-Dixie, you had this crew come in every so often to mop and wax your floors, but they were all ex-cons or drug addicts. They weren't your most outstanding citizens, so we had to watch them. So when he asked me about this job, that stereotype's going in my head, but I got to work. So my wife and I, we mopped floors and we waxed floors for 2 years. And so what I'm saying is I took a job that I thought I would never do, that I thought it was the lowest of lowest jobs, but we actually turned out to like it. The only downside was the hours, but we were more or less on our own. And as long as we did a good job, we did fine. And it gave me the time to start my own business and work it. And as my business increased, I was able to let go of those mopping jobs. But now these stores, and it's funny in life how things turn out. In my case, I worked for Winn-Dixie where they'd gone bankrupt, closed most of the stores. So I probably would have been without a job. But like the census, the federal government, you can get jobs. They need postal drivers. Well, you can do that. You can do it part-time and it pays good money. I think they started at $18 an hour in our area. So they must be hiring.
But it also sounds like you went through the grieving process, mourning a life you didn't live, mourning opportunities that you were missed out. And I think once you get over that, once you get over the anger, again, like I say in every video, anger is not a bad thing. Once you get over that anger, but use that anger for good, use it as fuel. Like that's kind of how I operate.
Brush yourself off and get back to work.
Yes. The people who wanted to take me down, I'm just making more videos about it. Thank you for that fuel. Thank you for that, because I in fact, it just means you're taking the attention off somebody else. And that's kind of how I feel about it. But
I did this last US Census and I found out they had 6 different operations. The first one was mapping. I got to sit in my own car. I'm getting paid $18 an hour just driving around matching mailboxes with houses. Easy work. Plus I got 50 cents a mile. And then they asked me to be a recruiter. I can do that because I've been trained to talk to people. And I did that. And then I was asked to do the actual enumeration, go door to door. Well, I've done that most of my life. So it's easy. And I'm in a good area. I didn't have not one bad person, yell at me. And so I did it. Here I was 60, 61 doing that. And then they said, we were going to do an auditing phase. We need a supervisor. Can you do that? I said, yeah, I can be a supervisor.
Ken, we're going to have you on another time because you are a fan favorite and you are such an asset to our community of survivors. So for people who are new to our channel, can you tell us where to find you?
Just give you my phone number.
Okay.
256-996-2561 if you want to call me. Just be aware that I do have a job. I have a life, but I will return the call. And don't fret. I will return the call. I like to talk because it's therapy for me too. I'm always learning new ideas, meeting new people, and I've met some fabulous people that I talk to on a regular basis just because I enjoy their conversation. And so just give me a call with your question or just want to talk. I'm in for it.
We love you so much. I get asked about you often. What happened to Ken? Bring Ken back.
Really?
So, yes. People feel comforted by having, I think it's because you're just so genuine. You're just an all around good guy. We need that now. Ken, it's been an honor. We will see you again when we do Ken 4.0.
Okay. The sky's the limit.
We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for watching. Remember, you can reach out to Ken because he's an open book. That is what we do here at Devout. We're just here to encourage you guys and continue to remind you that despite what you're currently going through, wanting to leave narcissistic abuse and high control religion, there is positivity, hope, and joy on the other side of that. If you want to be on the show, email me at wendyrenee@gmail.com, or you can go to wendyrenee.com and click tell your story, and that'll bring up the schedule. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.